Good morning and welcome to the Daily Connect. My name is Raymond, and yeah, I'm so glad you're still here. Thank you so much for being a part of this time together. We're looking at God's Word. We're seeing where the Lord is leading us and who the Lord is calling us to be. My apologies for running a little bit late. Just had a couple of challenges, but we're back and we're ready to go. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to Joanna, Gabby, Rich, Esther, Michael, Alvin, Missy, Sonia, Joseph. Wow, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for joining and sharing in this time together. And, what I always say, for giving the best part of your day, this early morning, over to the Lord. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right into it. We're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 1. And we're going through the book of Deuteronomy, and we're looking at how this nation is about to go into the promised land. And again, we're looking at the Israelites. They've made it all the way out to the plains of Moab. And one of the first things that we see in the book of Deuteronomy are amongst many speeches that Moses would give, is this reflection on the history of the Israelites from basically from the Exodus of Egypt all the way to the plains of Moab as they're about to enter into the promised land. It's good to reflect. It's good to look back on all these different things and really see, what was it that they had gone through to get to this point. So with that, let's go ahead and grab something warm to drink. Let's open up our Bibles, pull up a comfortable chair, and let's take a look. And let's see what the Lord has to say. All right. And again, we're looking at the book of Deuteronomy, and I titled this Record of Disobedience. Record of Disobedience. Rebellion of the first generation. And again, this particular section, we're going to be looking at, I think it's so important to remember that the context here is Moses talking to the surviving generation and reflecting on that first generation of Israelites that had left Egypt. So let's take a look, starting from verse 19. Then they set out from Horeb and went through all that great and terrifying wilderness that you saw, on the way to the hill country of the Amorites, as the Lord our God commanded us. And we came to Kadesh Barnea. This section here, just this first verse alone, gives us a reference. We see that this is the journey that took from Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea took 11 days, what we mentioned earlier. And so here they're at Kadesh Barnea. It's been an 11-day journey. I mean, as Moses has been sharing, but it's not that these people took 11 days to go from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea. It's that first generation. Also, we see that there's mention that this 11-day journey, was filled with danger and challenges. And if you recall, going all the way back to Numbers chapter 11, verse 1, all the way to chapter 12, verse 16, there's some of the danger actually came from themselves. They were complaining. They were in this wilderness. They're complaining about the lack of water. They're complaining about the lack of food. So that in itself may have been challenging, but the danger of them complaining against a God who has just delivered them into out of Egypt into this wilderness, that in itself is a dangerous thing. And also at Kadesh Barnea, they would essentially be parked here for the next 38 years, for at least 38 years that we're aware of. Let's continue. Verse 20. And I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord your God, which the Lord our God is giving us. See, the Lord your God has set the land before you. Go up, take possession, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has told you. Do not fear or be dismayed. So let's take a look at these verses here. Here we see Moses is encouraging the people. Again, we're talking about that first generation, not the current people here. That first generation at Kadesh Barnea, informing them, this is your land. You can go and take it. Whether Moses is talking about it from the potential of having this land, or literally having that land right then and there. Nonetheless, they're in this region, the Amorite country, which is just a couple miles north. They're the kingdoms of Sihon and Og. It's all right there, and Moses is saying, this is that promised land that God has set aside for you as an inheritance. Go and take it. Do not fear or be dismayed. Right? And so the possession of the land is spoken in such a way that Moses is very certain. This is yours, guys. This is yours. And again, Moses is probably speaking this from his current situation, knowing that he himself is not going to enter into that promised land. And because at the time, he was supposed to go into the promised land, but then he failed because of his own disobedience. But in the context of this speech, he recognizes where he's at, recognizes where the people of the first generation were at, and that's kind of where he was coming from. Let's take a look at verse 22. Then all of you came near to me and said, let us send men before us, that they may explore the land for us and bring us word again by the way by which we must go up, and the cities into which we shall come. Now, when you look at this section, it ought to be a little bit confusing, especially if you're familiar with what we read in the book of Numbers, this sending out of the spies. Here we see that it is the people that are saying, "Hey, you know what? Let's send out spies into this land." And then at the same time, in the context of again, we're talking about that previous generation, not the current generation. We're looking at this like lessons learned, but it was those people who raised the concern, hey, we want to scout out this land before anything else. But if we look at Numbers 13, we see that it was actually the Lord that commanded Moses to then raise up these leaders from each of the tribes to go and spy out the land. So is there a discrepancy here? Well, no, it's most likely not a discrepancy, because of the fact that it probably happened in this way. The people lacked that trust in the Lord and made the request to Moses and ultimately to God. And God then would Moses would then consult God, and God would give his approval and make the command, go and raise the leaders. So Numbers, the narrative in Numbers, at least the first two verses of chapter 13, is probably after the fact of the people. I mean, which makes sense when you think about it from a larger perspective. Why would God, who is giving this land to the people, want to have to send spies out? Well, here's the reason. it's because the people lacked that trust, and more, as we'll see in a moment. Verse 23 through 25. The thing seemed good to me, and I took 12 men from you, one man from each tribe, and they turned and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and spied it out. And they took in their hands some of the fruit of the land and brought it down to us and brought us word again and said, it is a good land that the Lord our God is giving us. So the proposal was accepted by Moses, and Moses would then, through the leading of God, would then send these leaders out, one from each tribe, to scout out the land. And we see this picking up in Numbers chapter 13, verses 4 through 15. We also see the valley of Eshcol, the valley of cluster, if you will. So indeed, the spies brought back that favorable report. It is indeed flowing with milk. Sorry, not mild. Milk and honey. And so we see that the favorable report did make it back to the people, as it was reflected in the book of Numbers. And when you think about it, this would have been the original entry point for the people going into the Promised Land, if they had not blown it, in a sense. My apologies. Let me just advance the slide here. All right, here we go. So this would have been the original entry point into the Promised Land had they not done what we're going to see next. And let's take a look. Verse 26. Yet you would not go up, but rebelled against the command of your Lord your God. So instead of going into the land, in spite of this favorable report, they rebelled against the Lord. The command was go and take this land, but the people first sent out spies. They lacked that trust. Then they turned it around and they rebelled against the Lord, and we're going to see how specifically they rebelled. But it's clear that these people were right now outright violating the covenant that they had made, that the Lord had made with the people. Verse 27, and you murmured in your tents and said, because the Lord hated us, he has brought us out of the land of Egypt to give us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us. Now, these are strong words. Now, here they've essentially, if you could just picture, they've gone into their tents, they've returned, they've gone into their tents, and there's a strong statement from their hearts that basically said, the Lord hates us. That's why he sent us out here for us to be destroyed. Which, wow, after what God has done for them, after God has delivered them from the hands of Egypt and brought them out here and provided for them, food, manna and quail and all this, and water. After all this, they still rebelled. They still murmured in their hearts. And so here, the depth of their rebellion is quite strong. The Lord hated us. That really, wow. And it's that strong language that would lead them into destruction. And then also, we see that this thinking of that first generation is opposite of this current generation that Moses is addressing. When you think about it, at this point in time, this current generation, they have defeated the Amorites. They have defeated Sihon and Og. And so, as Moses is sharing this reflection, this current generation is realizing, wow, we are quite different from from our parents, from that first generation that that had attempted to go into the promised land, or actually they rebelled and never went into the promised land, never had the opportunity. Verse 28, where are we going up? Our brothers have made our hearts melt, saying, the people are great and taller than we. The cities are great and fortified up to heaven. And besides, we have seen the sons of Anakim there. So here is that negative report. And so it already started with the murmuring of their hearts, how the Lord hated them and wanted to destroy them. And now, in a sense, they feel justified by saying, we've got this bad report. Where can we go? As the NIV translates that first question, the people right here feel like they have no hope. They've abandoned hope, and so they're already looking in the other direction. I mean, we know from Numbers chapter 14, they actually know where they're going. They want to go back to Egypt, and then also the irony of it all. I mean, we see that they're looking at the promised land, and it's ready for the taking, but it's at this point that they lose heart. It's quite interesting. This is, in a sense, for some of us, we may look at this and say, well, this may actually be an indictment against ourselves right now, because if we forget about how good God has been in our lives, we may start to lose heart. We may start to be like that first generation, to think, oh, God hates me. God wants to destroy me, and look at all the evidence that is against us going into the promised land. That's that in itself can be an act of rebellion against God. Let's continue. Verse 29 through 31. Then I said to you, do not be afraid. Do not be in dread or afraid of them. The Lord your God, who goes before you, will himself fight for you, just as he did for you in Egypt before your eyes, and in the wilderness, where you have seen the Lord your God how the Lord your God carried you, as a man carries his son, all the way that you went until you came to this place. So here Moses reminds the people, look, this is God's war. This is Yahweh's war. He's taken care of you all this way. Victory is guaranteed, guys. God has always been on your side, and he's always been fighting for you. Do you not remember? All the way from Egypt, from leaving Egypt, all the way up until this very moment. And again, we have to keep in mind, he's not talking to the current generation. The current generation, they're all standing in the plains of Moab. Moses is reflecting on that journey, that 11-day journey from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea, to this to the edge of the promised land. He has been fighting for you. Verse 32. Yet in spite of this word, you did not believe the Lord your God. So again, he points out, you guys have no trust, and as a result, the punishment is going to ensue. And their existence is even threatened at this point. And so, and we know what's going to happen next, because we've read about it in the book of Numbers. Let's finish this up. Verse 33. Who went before you in the way to seek you out a place to pitch your tents, in fire by night and in the cloud by day, to show you by what way you should go. So again, there's this lack of trust that really doesn't make any sense. especially when it's more than just what God has done, but the fact that this is a huge reminder. The fact that God is right there, literally leading you guys. He's there. This theophany, this physical presence of God in the form of a pillar of fire and a pillar of cloud, a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day. He's been leading you. You've got physical, literal evidence right there in front of you, well beyond just all the things that the Lord has done for you. And yet still, you are not trusting him. I mean, if we really think about the depth of this distrust, it's right here, as Moses is pointing out. And so God's presence is ever evident. God's power has been evident as well, and yet the people chose to disobey and not trust. So, what's the big takeaway here? For me, my big takeaway is this, and it's such a great reminder. I mean, when we read about this reflection of Moses upon the looking back on that first generation, it is a reminder. This outright disobedience and really even misrepresentation of God will lead to punishment and judgment from the Lord. We cannot afford that. I mean, if we ourselves have experienced that goodness of God, if we ourselves have seen how great God is in our lives, we really can't turn around and speak badly of him, right? Yes, we can be honest with him. We could verbalize our hearts before him about how challenging this is, or Lord, this is uncomfortable. That's okay, but to complain about his goodness, to complain about his power and his providence, and then to ultimately say, I want to disobey because they just had this murmuring in their hearts. Let's do a heart check of ourselves. Do we have that murmuring in our hearts? Amen. All right. Thank you, everyone, once again, for sharing this time together, and thank you for your patience and just sticking around and waiting for this live stream to go live. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. I love you guys. I'm praying for you all, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Tonight, we're going to be having a prayer night, and it's going to be a good one. I look forward to spending that time with as many of you possible. All right. Have a great day. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.